for opportunities that would allow us to shrink the number of contractors or responders, right? So that's limited source contracting. And we're also looking for some opportunities to sole source. There is no sole source with the Women-Owned Small Business Program. But imagine what a phenomenal opportunity to be able to limit competition within your industry. That's a fantastic business opportunity that I'm hoping that women take advantage of. We can talk about that. So the purpose of the program is to provide a procurement tool for the contracting officers. We all know about the 5%, where the contracting officer can set aside or limit competition in an effort to meet their 5% goal. So whenever there's a goal, there has to be a tool. Otherwise, how would the contracting officer get to you? It's one thing to have a program, but the protocols must be in place through the FAR and the CFR in order for them to be able to get to you. And with the Women-Owned Small Business Program, that's in the form of a set-aside with certain restrictions. Go to the next one. And one more. We're kind of off kilter. Okay. So who runs the Women-Owned Small Business Program? Well, we've got two representatives here from the SBA, and they are in charge of the Women-Owned Small Business Program, which does not become effective until February 4th, 2011. And that's important because as I talk about the program and all the features that are within the program, some of those won't start or be in place until February 4th or after. But it still lets us know what's coming and allows us to position ourselves for the right opportunity at the right time, because now we've got time. There are 83 industry classifications that are eligible for the Women-Owned Small Business Program. In your presentations and here on the board, you see the link that will identify those 83 classifications that are eligible. So I'm assuming that those of you who are women-owned small businesses, particularly if you're already service-able veteran-owned small businesses, you've already identified which codes match with your core competencies and with your industry. All right, William. Let's talk about maximizing the program. And when I talk about that, what I'm talking about, and it sounds like we have two different things going on here, William. Sorry, I have two different presentations. But leave that one there, William, for a minute. I want to talk about return on investment, incremental increase in market share, and strategic market advantage. Which presentation slide are you guys on? It says what can be set aside for women-owned small businesses?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, then I'm going to go with that. Hold this one back here. Very good, thanks. We talked about the 83 industry codes, and here are the basic rules. If the anticipated award must not exceed a total of $5 million for manufacturing NAICS codes. And for all other NAICS codes that are non-manufacturing, it must not exceed $3 million. And yes, that does include option years. So for example, if you've been given, I see your question, if you've been given, awarded a contract for 1 year with 2 or 3 one-year options, that cumulative amount cannot exceed these thresholds. So they cannot exceed $5 million for manufacturing, even with the option years included, and it cannot exceed the $3 million. I have a question in the back.
Yeah, the $5 million you mentioned for manufacturing, is that the set-aside portion or is that the total contract?
That's the total contract.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. William, go to the next slide. Oh, Charmaine, do you have a question?
I do about the 83 classification, industry codes rather. They took 236-220 out, but they broke it down into different trades. Okay, with the state of California, you need to have like a license or whatever for some of those codes for construction. But the federal government, will they overlook those codes? I mean, overlook like you need a class C for like
yes.
10 or okay.
Just like they do now. The federal government will waive those classifications, because even though it's a standardized program, we all know that the federal government guidelines are different than the state guidelines. And that's a reason why there's some interesting issues within this presentation. That's one of the reasons that they're looking at who are going to be the certifiers. What third-party certifiers is the SBA going to allow into the program? Because you have state rules that are different from federal, so that's become a complication. Okay. You can go to the next. Oh, and the final thing is that, of course, we all know it must be at a fair and reasonable price. right? That it must be at a fair and reasonable price, and the contracting officer must conduct their market research to make sure that the price you're offering is fair and reasonable. All right, William, you can go to the next one. What is economic disadvantage? There is the Women-Owned Small Business Program, and there's the SDVOSB program, the Economically Disadvantaged Women-Owned Small Business Program. You see economic disadvantage here. Personal net worth, there's a lot of caveats here, less than $750,000. Your adjusted gross yearly income average over the 3 years preceding, you see it there on the slide, must not exceed $350,000. And the fair market value of all of her assets, including primary residence and the value of the business, must not exceed $6 million. Right?
$6 million.
$6 million for the economically disadvantaged. And I thought it was very interesting for them to talk about the personal net worth being at less than $750,000, because that's the same as the WOSB program. And then I started to think about how sometimes, like in the state of California, we're a community property state. So that number becomes very important, because now you get to divide between you and your husband. Yes, sir?
What if you file joint return, joint tax return there husband?
I don't know the answer to that question. I believe, as it was for the 8A program for the personal net worth, you know, that personal net worth statement that you filled out, the way that we did it is that my husband, we took the total assets that were community property state, we divided them by 2, and we filed jointly. Okay, but for better clarity, I would refer you to the SBA. Okay. All right, William. Women-Owned Small Business Program in brief. Set-asides, that's what we want. Now we're going to talk about the market research, or the rule of 2, which we've seen before in the Service-Able Veteran-Owned Small Business Program, and fair and reasonable price. So we are eligible for set-asides under those 83 identified industry classification codes. The contracting officer must conduct his or her market research. The rule of 2, which is something very important to pay attention to, because if there are 2 qualified women-owned small businesses, that particular requirement can be set aside at the discretion of the contracting officer. That's very important. That's a lot of groundwork on our part. We can talk about that a little bit later. And of course, the price must be, the contract must be awarded, because it's taxpayer dollars, at a fair and reasonable price. All right, William. There are 6 criteria for a contracting officer to reserve an acquisition for women-owned small businesses. You see them there on your presentation. I'll go through them quickly but briefly.